So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're viewing from. I'm Laura Thompson with TAN TV, the African American Network, where we have a local feel with a global reach. And we have the distinct privilege and pleasure of interviewing the Honorable John H. Sanders Jr. For the Martin Luther King Commission Special. So how you doing,
Good
John?
morning. I think I'm all right, but the Lord knows for sure.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, you're looking well.
Thank you
Looking
so
well.
much.
So before we get started with the interview, it's tradition that I ask you,
Sure.
who you are, what you do, why you do it, all of those good things.
Well, I am who you just said I am most of the time. I'm so blessed now I can do most whatever I want to every day, Saturday except Sunday. And from my last ventures, other than the opportunity to preach the Lord's Word, I've had a chance to do that in the past month at my grandfather's church down in Seguin at Zion Hill, the pre-anniversary service, 140-some year old church.
Wow.
And I've gone down when my father had preached there when I was a young boy, 14 and 15, so to have the invitation to come back in the country. I have relatives down there. I had a great experience there. But other than that, other than my consulting thing that I have done, community development stuff and grant reviewing that I used to do because I retired from doing that, whatever the Lord say do and whatever my heart desires, I'm kind of still in my right mind to be able to do that.
I know, like sometimes I call them and I say, what's going on? Oh, I'm just doing the Lord's work. Whatever that might be.
Whatever that might be, waiting on the next call.
So let's talk a little bit about your involvement in the civil rights movement leading up to your commitment to serve on the Martin Luther King Commission.
Wow. The movement, that would have begun when I discovered the reason I was here. Like I've always said, and I've even preached this, the two most important dates in your life are the day you were born and the date you discover why.
Wow.
I discovered why at 17 as a freshman at San Antonio College when after winning the intramural basketball tournament, our all-black team was asked to integrate before we were accepting the invitation to the citywide tournament. Well, of course, we declined because our position was, had we not won, none of us would have been invited to the team that would have won to play. They would have been able to go represent the school as the team that won the tournament. I discovered from that experience that I had a tremendous passion known as righteous indignation. I discovered I had that problem with injustice, inequality, and racism.
Wow.
And so from that point on, and from that experience, the next one I was confronted with, or we were confronted with as young college students, as we were going around then establishing the black student unions at all of the local universities and colleges, is that we also had an issue about San Antonio selling the gold medallion coin that represented the government of the apartheid government of South Africa. And so we took that issue upon ourselves to educate not only our young peers and associates, but of course the greater community, because we as a people were walking around buying these gold. That's when blacks were starting to wear their jewelry kind of exclusively and extensively, and people were buying this coin and they were wearing not knowing that you were paying for the oppression and the subjugation of your people in South Africa. So, and a lot of people were still learning that Africa was not a country, it was a continent. So, you're educating on that front while you're talking about our connection as a people to those people and that we need to do. And I'm still very humbled and proud to say San Antonio was the second city in the United States, of course the first one in Texas, to pass a resolution against the sale of that coin.
Wow.
And then once you have the kind of taste of victory in the fight of oppression, then you grow into other things. So by 1975, 79, we, the young passionate activists of that day, we formed what was called the Organizations United for Eastside Development. which is 10 organizations over 12 neighborhood associations, or maybe a membership of about 300 plus. And for the next 10 years, we were involved with everything from the 5 subcommittee initiatives we had, from civil rights and police brutality and police abuse, housing discrimination, governmental inequality, and employment. And for the next 10 years, we put up parks, over 5 different parks in the community. I won't bore you with naming them all. To include I would say our kingpin project, which was the Barbara Jordan Community Center, which took 7 years, opposition from without and from within. Mm-hmm. But finally, that got done. Those were some of the capital improvements. But then the internal things to deal with the discrimination, the murder cases, starting with Webb Eugene Boyd at Shopper's World. Some people remember that. Michael Haskins, Hector Santascoy. We were involved with those cases, had people in those courtrooms. As a matter of fact, Webb Boyd case was the first conviction of peace officers in San Antonio in 40 years for killing a minority. Wow. And it didn't happen without diligent and a consistent presence in the courtroom. I remember Ricky Green, Mario Salas, myself, we were subpoenaed so the prosecution could have us excluded from the courtroom, because if we were subpoenaed as witnesses, they could tell us we couldn't sit and listen to the proceedings. Wow. So, but we went to the stand, and I remember the late Judge Klein asked us, were we having a rally at the bar? Did we have a rally? No, we didn't have a rally, but we did have a press conference that morning. Mm-hmm. So when did you have any? Yes, sir, we didn't have a rally. We had a press conference. Here's a copy of it. Whatever. Mm-hmm. And like we were calling for the overs. No, we weren't calling for. We were just asking people to be vision what's going on. Wow. So that was very. So we grew from that.
Right.
And
so
then,
let's go back. I think that's you were instrumental in fighting and helping to make the Martin Luther King holiday in San Antonio.
Oh yeah.
Well, in Texas,
in
not
Texas.
just in San Antonio.
Yes. From that experience, OUED in its transformational state after 10 years, the Martin Luther King Commission had been established now for at least 2 years. We were changing. We were metamorphosing. We thought it was time for new leadership. We had been out here doing this for 12 and needed a new face because of our baggage or luggage or whatever you want to call it. And during the part of that transformation, we formed a new group called Frontline 2000. Mm-hmm. And it was Frontline 2000 who, when Gene Upshaw and the National Football Association had declared that they would oppose Arizona or Phoenix getting the Super Bowl because Arizona did not recognize a Martin Luther King holiday, we said, Rick Green, first vice president of OUED, said we need to have a conference call. We need to be a part of this. We need to call the Texas government and Kathy Whitmire in Houston, because Houston was on the list for Super Bowl, that we would be opposing a Super Bowl coming to Texas if we didn't have a Martin Luther King holiday. Mario and Rick went to Austin. I was here in San Antonio. My role was, if they walked out of that meeting and didn't have an agreement about establishing in the next legislature a MLK holiday, we had 18 of our stations, radio stations, that's when radio was very powerful back then, that I would call if Ricky walked out of that office and said we didn't get an agreement. We had the fax ready to go out to over 1,800 stations saying Texas will not have a Martin Luther King holiday, and so we opposed the Super Bowl coming to Houston. Kathy Whitmire was in that meeting, told Gib Lewis, who was the Speaker of the House, do what you have to do. He called in Karen Conley at that time, who was our state representative, Ron Wilson from Houston, the late Frank Tejada, and Frank Modler were in that office. Frank Tejada carried it in the Senate. Ron Wilson and Karen Conley carried it in the legislative branch. We got an MLK holiday. Governor Ann Richards was at the next MLK March in San Antonio and told us if it wasn't for San Antonio, who did it wasn't Houston, you would think, it wasn't Dallas, it was San Antonio, because San Antonio had a very activist, I would say the most activist city in the state at the time. La Raza Unida was in San Antonio. The Brown Berets were in San Antonio. LULAC was in San Antonio. We were in San Antonio. NAACP was in San Antonio.
Wow.
So Texas, in essence, San Antonio was almost like the epicenter of the movement. The Southwest Voting Project, the late Willie Velasquez, who I gave a special award to, the Councilman's Award, to his family, because he took the voting challenge down in the valley and registering Hispanics and Mexicans to vote down in LaGrange County and down around Laredo, Harlingen, McAllen, and all of those places. And that's why now you drive in those areas, you got county judges, sheriffs, whatever, who are Hispanic, who are Mexican, those areas. That's from the work of Willie Velasquez, Julian Castro and Joaquin Castro's mother, Rosie Castro, Jesse Boteo, the late Ruben Sandoval. That was the Hispanic movement. The late Pena, Albert Pena, who, when you introduced him, he would always say he's not American, he's a Chicano. So the Chicano movement, they felt that way. So we had interaction with them. Yeah.
Wow. So you all were well prepared to move into working on the Martin Luther King Commission. So tell us about your experience on the commission.
When the progressive mayor, Henry Cisneros, who was trying and was working his way onto the national stage, realized the importance of his city being recognized in the era of where the country was moving, decided to establish a commission to make the Martin Luther King observance something that was citywide, that the whole city could enjoy. And so that is why he caught the capable Aranetta Pierce to head the first commission, and very wisely established tri-head committees, chair and two co-chairs that represented different eras. For the first 2 or 3 years, you had whatever committee I chaired or anyone chaired, you had a co-chair, Hispanic co-chair, and obviously either a Jewish or white co-chair. We were trying to make the whole city welcome to the observance, and so that was the face that was put on the commission from the beginning.
Wow. So what role did you play when you first started?
My first start, I assisted the March Commissioner Chair Pierce gave to the activists. So we were in charge of the March. So Ricky Marshall Green was the first chair of the MLK March Committee. What we did, and Ricky asked to assist him, we established the March Marshals. Our goal was that we didn't need the police policing us. We would police ourselves. So we created the March Marshals. 25 volunteers, people from the community who the community knew, and they knew the community, who could interact, who could tell us, hey, we can't stand on the grass. Hey, we got to move. Who could communicate with the people. We didn't need law officers interacting at that time. The relationship between police and the community was of such that we just didn't want that action, and we knew how to put this on. And so that's why the success of it, and it grew. Local folks, it was easy to get into. It was easy to leave. It was easy to get to your car after it was over. We made those kind of arrangements. And if you didn't want to get in at the beginning, as the march proceeded down MLK, you could get in it. And the last 10 years, I've had a whatever trying to get the commission to understand that. But that's how we established it, and we wanted to make sure that the city understood that we were having a march. We would never parade in San Antonio. Martin Luther King never paraded. He marched. You never saw balloons and streamers and floats going down the street. A march was a very solemn thing. I think it was the 17th year I wrote an article about why we marched, for the next generation to understand the difference between a march and a parade. And we would get calls from out of town. People wanted to come to San Antonio. That's how it became the largest march in the country, because they wanted to be a part of a march. And so they knew coming in from Floresville, Castroville, Houston, Austin, that they would be a part of a solemn march experience. Whatever the issues were at that time, you could bring your signs or whatever you were protesting, and you could peacefully exist in the march.
So San Antonio has been named the city that has the largest march in the nation. And it was designated that we had the largest march in the nation while you were
Yes.
active with the
Yes.
commission. So how does that make you feel, and how do you think that you all were able to accomplish
I
that?
think it was the Tom Joyner year. The year I had Tom when I was city councilman, and Tom Joyner came down, and Ron Clerk was our speaker. That for that particular march, we had the aerial service that took the picture. You have proof. That's the last time we had a picture of the march on the front page of the Express and News. And to show that we had the largest march. Since that time, I know the march has gone through its changes. It felt great to get to the top of the hill because if you come up MLK, past the overpass where Mr. Coleman would be up there taking a picture, Mr. Wallace would be taking a picture of the march coming for Charles Barksdale, who is our world-renowned photojournalist here in San Antonio, retired, would be on top of the bridge on the railroad trust up there taking a picture. Coming up that hill, that's when I would turn around. Because from that first year for the next 23 years, when the march hit the street, I was the marshal.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ricky, it didn't matter who the chair was. I was the second chair of the committee. TC was the third chair of the committee. Then Charles Shannon, Miss Tippins was the chair of the committee. But all those chairs of the committee, when we were ready to go, it was time to go. I was the one lining us up, moving us down the street. Oh, God, I got to remember his name now. He just passed us a while ago, was my point man at the sanitation truck, because we let off the march with the sanitation truck, representative of where Dr. King was in Memphis when he was assassinated. He was there representing the workers, sanitation workers of the city, in a wage dispute about
Wow.
wages and working conditions. Yeah.
So I have a comment and one final question.
Okay.
So, like during that time, it was, I don't know, unprecedented, the things that y'all did. So how do you, and nobody really taught you, y'all just started doing things.
Well,
so how did you?
we had templates. We had the movement, the history of the Southern Leadership Conference. We had the history of SNCC. We had the history of all of the other organizations, Farmers Organization, Whitney Young's organization. We had the Urban League. We had all kinds of models.
Mm-hmm.
But we knew what activism was, and we knew it was engaging. It was not a spectator sport. So we knew how to organize because we were a member of NPA, National People's Action. We were going to Washington every year, 2 and 3 times a year, to what we used to call the Hellraisers Convention, where all the act over the country would come. Whatever the national agenda was on Saturday and Sunday nights, we would load up on buses. I remember the night we went to Georgetown, Phil Graham, who was head of currency at that time. It was something about the money. The dollar was losing its 33 cents on the dollar interest. So at 6 o'clock on Sunday evening, Phil Graham had about 15 buses unloading in front of his neighborhood, people going down, putting flyers on his neighbor's house, telling him you got a bozo who lives here, and rang his doorbell, present him with the Bozo Award. He's got 500 people standing in his front yard in Georgetown, and the people calling him a bozo for what he's doing. Get back on the bus, go back to the hotel tomorrow morning, get back on. You got 2 hits today. We don't know where we're going till we're on the bus, because nobody tells it, so it's not leaked out. And then here comes the Metro Police and whatever when we go on to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. You got 300 people in the front door. We want Leland. We know who the chair of the board is. They're having their meeting upstairs. We want Leland. People are marching downstairs on the front floor. Here comes the Capitol Police. When the Capitol Police come, we all know, we all trained. As soon as they get out, whoever's in the back when they get out of the car, you get their name and you call them, we got Captain Ron, Sergeant Wade. Yay, and everybody claps. They make a way for Sergeant Wade. Yay. Now they are part of the negotiation team. So when they get to the front of the door, the teams, yes, we'd like that. Will you negotiate? We'll leave. We'll put everybody on the bus. If you get a meeting, 30 minutes with the whatever team. Now you have the police and look, they'll leave. Just leave them upstairs. Can he come down and talk to them? Now the police are negotiating. We'll clap. Yay! That's the police. They're on our side. And then we get a meeting and everybody gets on the bus. We go to the next. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful.
Wow.
And the last day you go up on the hill to your representative, your senator, and your congressperson, and tell them what you've been in town, what you've been doing, and then you come back to San Antonio and you enact those kind of principles.
Well, it sounded like a lot of work.
It was
a lot of organizing.
It was,
but a lot of fun
It was.
as well. And we commend you for all of the work that you've done and that you continue to do
Thank you.
to serve
be the
the
glory.
legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King.
Amen. God be the glory. It is.
So
Yeah.
thank you. You've been tuned into TAN TV, the African American Network, where we have a local feel with the global reach. And thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little bit. Ciao.